a judge has ordered an individual, a defendant who is standing trial, to cover his tattoos, his facial tattoos, in order to receive a fair trial. So let's take a quick look at the person in question. You get a sense of why the tattoos should be covered. He has a teardrop, which usually indicates that, he was in prison before or that he's killed someone. You have a Nazi sign, apparently, on his face as well.
It's a little hard to see. I had to look a couple of times. It's the swastika inside the clover on the opposite side from the teardrop.
Yeah, it looked like clover.
Right. So, before choosing who the jurors would be in this case. And by the way, he is accused of some pretty hideous things. He is accused of stealing a man's motorcycle at gunpoint. He also faces the death penalty in a different case. He's accused of killing a 75-year-old woman days before that robbery. So, look, the judge wants to make sure he gets a fair trial, and potential jurors were saying that they would be unable to be unbiased if they saw such tattoos. And so now, every day before he stands trial, he needs to have it covered. A professional makeup artist that puts some foundation on him and covers the tattoo, which I think is the right way to go, because you want everyone to have a fair trial, right?
I don't agree.
Okay.
And so you have the liberal position. Mm-hmm. This brings me back to why I was a conservative in law school. Look, do we trust the jury or we don't trust the jury? We wouldn't have him do makeup in front of a judge. Sometimes the judge makes it, sometimes you'll have a jury trial, and sometimes the defendant will want a trial by judge. And so we would never do the makeup for the judge because we trust him. We think he's smart and can make that decision and is not going to be biased. A jury, we think, is a bunch of knuckleheads, so we got to do the makeup on the guy so that he has a better chance at it. Well, then don't do jury trials if you think they're all stupid. But I don't think they're stupid. And by the way, I also think that a swastika on your face is indicative of something. It doesn't mean that you did that bank robbery.
No, okay, hold on. Stop for a second. No, I disagree. Look, people make stupid decisions in their lives, okay? And people get
like
stupid.
Putting a swastika in their face.
That is by far one of the stupidest decisions anyone could make. Putting a swastika on your face is idiotic, to say the least. However, you can't use his tattoo as a way of deciding whether or not he's guilty of a completely different crime, or if he's guilty of stealing a motorcycle at gunpoint or killing a 75-year-old woman. Look, if he did it, I want him brought to justice. I'm not trying to do him any favors. But the reality is, Cenk, whether you trust individuals or not, people are easily persuaded by the way someone looks. Right? And so if he has tattoos like that, jurors are going to unfortunately focus more on that, and it's going to bias them to the point where I don't think they're going to make it. No, I disagree with you. I want a fair trial.
But no, I have to clarify something. Hold on. I have to clarify something. I'm not saying I see a swastika on a guy's face and I go, guilty. No matter what the charge is, guilty.
You don't think that way, but a lot of people do think that way, Cenk.
Okay, all right, no, but then don't have jury trials because you think they're morons. Right? So, look, yes, it is a rational thing to say the guy's got a tear tattoo. He's at least pretending to have killed someone. He's got a swastika. That means he at least is pretending to hate a lot of people.
Yeah.
And by the way, we also don't oftentimes share with the jury all of his past crimes. Now, the judge gets to see all of that. Now, if I'm making a decision on someone, I want all that background. That doesn't mean that I think he did this crime. It does mean that it is part of my decision-making process because it should be. Look, to say that, no, this angel was dropped on this earth here, and I have to judge this angel devoid of any context is preposterous.
No one is saying that. You need context, but you need context related to the charges against him. Okay, people make stupid decisions throughout their lives. What if he got that ridiculous tattoo, and it turns out that he completely changed and was...
like an American History X.
You know what would happen?
Never know.
You know what would happen? They would have a trial, they would present that evidence, and then I would rule the other way.
Yeah. So, look, a couple of points that came up during this, and I'm sort of flip-flopping. I think I know where I stand on this. One, I think the saying that the standard that a jury could theoretically be biased by, and a judge and a jury could theoretically be biased. So what's the difference? I mean, I'm assuming a judge receives significantly more training over the course of his life to weed out that sort of thing. But while I do think if I saw someone, if I was on a jury and he had those facial tattoos, I'd probably assume that he did it too.
Yep.
And we know that people even vote for candidates who are like more attractive or taller. The problem
That's why Bernie
is,
did so well in this election.
he's really tall, man. He's really tall. And his hair adds a couple inches. But no, I think the problem is then in the slippery slope. Like, it's easy to say, well, we've identified swastika tattoos as something that will make someone think that you're a criminal. And I think that it would. But we know that juries go lighter on more attractive defendants. They literally do. So why don't we put makeup on everyone? Because then they'd be more attractive and they'd be more fair. Like, I think,
or make
why don't we put
attractive
lips,
guys
make it look
uglier.
taller? Exactly.
I don't know about
that makes it really tough when you think about all the other subtle, implicit biases that affect juries. There are tons of them. We have studies that can identify some. But should we try to correct all of them? I don't know.
I mean, here's
But the
one, race. So should we put
white powder on black guys?
Yeah,
Because
should
they'll
we
get-
put whiteface on them?
Maybe they shouldn't see the defendant at all. They
No, the
should just hear the
problem-
details of the case.
So the problem with your argument in this case is that guy's guilty. I don't know if you saw that picture.
Yeah, what if it's
got
not?
a
What if
frickin'
it's not a swastika? What if it's a kitten on his cheek? Okay, it's a kitten. That's not offensive. Still, it's on his face. That's kind of stupid and crazy and wild. I don't know.
Well-
I mean, you could play with these little things. It is a slippery slope.
But that's what I'm saying. You're asking us to suspend normal human common sense. For example, if he had a tear in the shape of a kitten and he was accused of killing kittens, that's kind of relevant. That, if it's just a random kitten on his face, it's not relevant. I'm a human being.
It's
I
still
can make that decision, right?
Yeah.
But if you think
don't
I
know.
can't make that decision, then don't let me make that decision. Then just let the judges decide.
We should
But we
Supreme
can't assume that the jury is dumber than the judge. Otherwise, we shouldn't have that system.
You know what? I might get hate for this. I think the jury is dumber than the judge. Okay, I was a juror. I'm dumber than the judge. Okay, people are prone to prejudice. People are prone to being biased based on the appearance of someone. And look, you make a good point about race. Race is something that someone cannot help, right? So the idea of powdering someone to make them look white is ridiculous. But something like a tattoo could have been a really terrible decision someone made earlier in their life, and they could have been a changed person. And it's unfair, regardless of the person's race. I'm not trying to, all those other factors don't matter to me. I just want to make sure that we do what's necessary to have an unbiased jury so someone can stand a fair trial. That's what I want.
So I'm going to give the worst example ever from my side. So I understand what you're saying, and there is a lot of ignorance in the world. I get that. And it doesn't mean they're stupid, by the way. It could be that they didn't get a great education, and the judge did.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference because he's seen the context of a lot of cases, both in his experience and in law school, that the jury might not have that context, which is important. So I think it is a legitimate debate as to whether we should have jury trials or not. But I will say that the part of the reason I like it is because oftentimes the jury has a perspective that the judge doesn't. That's why it is a jury of our peers. So the worst example I'm going to give is the OJ case. Now, in my opinion, OJ was guilty, and I think they did make the wrong decision. But it is entirely possible that a case like that jury that was made up of primarily African Americans would have a different perspective of how the police treat African Americans in Los Angeles or other big cities, and sometimes do plant evidence. And the judge would not have had that perspective. So in the case of OJ, it's a terrible example because I think he was guilty. But there have been, I'm sure, many similar cases where the jury would be more right than the judge. Where the judge would be like, why would a cop just plant some drugs on a guy? Whereas the jury might go, what are you talking about? They plant drugs on us all the time. And so that perspective is also important. That's why I like jury trials, but it is not an easy question.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with jury trials. I just want to make sure we don't do anything that influences the jury and gives them a bias that would work against the defendant.
Yeah.